Subscribe to my sister's channel. She will also voice her favorite plots. Let's give her a big asset. The light blinded the girl. She feels like her body is being pushed through a pipe. All the organs seem to be compressed. When, finally, this hell was over, she was able to breathe again. Naruto opened her eyes. She was lying in a white hall, so bright that her eyes watered. She turned her head, continuing to lie on the icy floor. In the very center of the hall was a throne floating freely in the air. On it sat none other than the great Rikudo Sennin. He looked menacingly at the young Uzumaki, however, his menace was assumed. The elder involuntarily felt proud of this girl, the reincarnation of his son, Ashura. She was a phenomenal dullard, but she always stood up for her beliefs, even if it cost her a lot. Looking at Kunoichi, the shinobi god saw her as a son, and now knowing what the girl had to go through, he wanted to give her a gift to Naruto Uzumaki. Sennin's thunderous voice cut through the silence. Suddenly, a scarlet chakra began to thicken around the girl, and a minute later Kurama himself was sitting in front of her and the god of the shinobi world. The latter bowed his head slightly in reverence to his creator and greeted him, "Hello, father. Hello, my son." God answered the fox, looking at the nine-tailed one with a slight reproach. After all, he had a chance to save his host, but Kurama gaped and lost to their common enemy. "I'm a little disappointed in you, Kurama. I must admit, I thought that 1,000 years of life had done you good, and that you would not allow such a terrible death of your Jinchuriki." Kurama closed his eyes, silently agreeing with his parent. "However, I am delighted that you are ready to go to the next world with a human child. So we're dead after all? But then why are you meeting us, old man Rikudo?" Uzumaki, who has already been forgotten by everyone, got up from the floor with the grace of a hippo and now stared questioningly at old man Rikudo. "I brought your souls out of the bodies here. This is a spatial hole, you are neither alive nor dead." Sennin completely ignored Naruto's appeal and moved on to the topic. "I brought you here for a reason. As you know, I am Sennin Rikudo. I have unlimited abilities in many areas of the chakra. I use it at a higher level. To be honest, you, Naruto Uzumaki, the vessel of my youngest son, delighted me with your talent and perseverance. I've been watching your fate since I was a very young child. Your life, child of prophecy, is full of pain, resentment and unshed tears. I think that you, Naruto Uzumaki, deserve a second chance at life. Will you accept the gift I am giving you?" Wait, old man Rikudo. You say that we can, like, once or twice and how your sons are reborn, right? No, these are different things. I'll try to explain. You see, Naruto, Indra and Ashura have reincarnated. They had no memory of their past life, they only had innate skills, like representatives of their clans. What I'm offering you is, roughly speaking, time travel. You will become a small child, but your body will be prepared at your level at the moment, you will be able to perform high-ranking jutsu. But the most important thing is your memory. Your thinking and your memory will be preserved, which means that you will be able to prevent unpleasant events in your past life as soon as such an opportunity arises. That's great, old Sennin, but what do I have to do in return? Nothing, you can consider it my gift. You will recover and live your life anew. Wait. You mean we'll recover and live our lives anew? How am I without Kurama? Naruto was confused. Alas, but no. Kurama will have to leave. I'll send him to the rebirth circle ahead of time. Kyubi lowered his gaze. He didn't want to say goodbye to his loud little man, but you can't trample on your father. But Naruto wouldn't be Naruto if she left everything as it is. That is, how is it, without Kurama? Kurama is the closest being to me, I can't do without him, Naru. Kurama tried to stop the verbal flow of his Jinchuriki, but it was not there. Kurama. You've been with me since the moment I was born, do you think I'll just leave you like that? If so, then I have bad news for you, I will be with you until the end, whether you want it or not. Kurama closed his eyes in despair, mentally cursing the stupid devotion of his girlfriend. Of course, he was touched by the girl's speech, but to stay with the nose, giving up everything for him, is nothing but stupidity, in his opinion. He was too attached to the blonde to forgive himself for what she was going to do. But deep down, Bijou was glad that Naru would not go anywhere without him. They are egoists even at death. Rikudo, however, was not a bit outraged by her words. A smile touched the corners of the man's lips. He expected to hear this from a girl, but he was still delighted. And so, as if nothing had happened, he replied, "Then you will go together." Kubi was in shock, as was Naruto, who was already in the mood to swear with Sennin. Just like that? Watching their elongated faces, the shinobi god explained, "The Uchiha boy was right, Obito, it seems. The one who does not follow orders is considered garbage, and the one who abandons his comrades is worse than garbage. You, Naruto, are ready to give up a tempting opportunity to change your mistakes, just because your friend Kurama will not be with you. You do it unconsciously, and it commands respect. You will go together," he said, as he cut off, and then added, "And yes, Kurama, don't be surprised at what will happen to her, I can't fix it," and clapped his hands in front of the surprised Jinchuriki in no less surprised Bijou. The bright light blinded them again, already being in proud solitude. Rikudo Sennin said into the void, "I hope you can do it." Opening her eyes, Uzumaki at first did not understand where she was. The yellow ceiling with peeling paint and a thin cobweb in the corner seemed terribly familiar to her. Her old apartment. Only there was such a ceiling. The girl squeezed her eyes shut, trying to drive away the obsession. And how did she end up here? She tried to get up, but her body hurt unbearably, and she fell back on the bed. A terribly old bed, with creaking springs and a moth-eaten mattress. Her old bed, shaking her head, rather in the hope of shaking out a severe headache from her, rather than getting rid of the illusion of her staying in the old apartment. The girl, still not daring to get up, thought, what she saw could just be a dream. So it is likely that her apartment is an illusion created by technology. Kai. Folding her hands into the right seal, the girl shouted. She has very small hands with short fingers. Nothing happened. Her apartment, her hands, everything remained the same. So it's not a dream, flashed through the blonde head of a girl, or rather a girl. After fidgeting, the child sat up on the bed and looked around. She was not mistaken, she was in a terribly cluttered room. Piles of garbage towered on the floor and were even taller than the girl. She did it so as to fill the emptiness of her apartment, to dispel the illusion of complete loneliness. Naruto got up and walked over to the mirror standing near the table littered with ramen bags. A huge crack in the glass made it difficult to see his reflection properly. In front of her stood a girl of about 3 years old, in orange pajamas with a fox cub and a beaver nightcap, with which she did not part even after becoming a heroine of the 5 nations. The bones of the baby protruded strongly from under the clothes, the terrible thinness of the child's body was visible. It looked very bad. Although her ramen diet was no better. The hair that the girl cut above the shoulders after the war was again below the waist. Her blue pajamas were too big and hung on the girl like a bag. Naruto only snorted contemptuously at this whole picture, mentally complaining about her stupidity. She should have started training from the moment she just learned to walk, you see, now she would have been pumped up and able to create at least elementary techniques. Naruto climbed back onto the bed, and trying to relax, closed her eyes. After a couple of seconds, opening her eyes again, she stared straight into two huge yellow fox eyes. In a huge gilded cage in front of her sat a demon fox with 9 tails. The thick fiery red fur shimmered and sparkled, as if from sunlight, and the tails lay next to their owner, indicating his calmness. Well, thank God, you can get into the inner world without any problems. Kurama broke away from the contemplation of his Jinchuriki and, sighing, plopped down right where he was sitting. He was nervous, fearing that due to the relocation and the resumption of printing, he would no longer be able to contact the girl, but it turned out that she could still be summoned to the subconscious. Kyubi stared at his host, expecting to hear a standard question, but instead, "How are you?" Naruto asked in an unusually thin voice, as if afraid to hear the answer. Concern for his tailed friend could be clearly heard in his voice. Kurama was confused. He really did not expect that this button would be worried about a huge and scary fox that destroys countries with its tails alone. But this is Naruto, and Naruto knows how to surprise. "It's fine." The fox growled in a bass voice, watching the girl squeeze between the bars and sit on one of the tails he kindly placed. A little devil, but brave, all this was extremely. Suddenly, Naru stretched out, thoughtfully looking straight ahead. "Our time travel, Databeo," she paused. Not knowing how else to fill the oppressive silence between them, Kurama decided to say what he had been thinking about all the time while Naruto was recovering. "Naruto, well, in short. Thank you." Tailed pulled her out of her own thoughts. The girl blinked and looked at her friend in surprise. "You stood up for me in front of my father. I am grateful to you for that. But you're a little idiot. You had your chance. A wonderful chance for life. And you know, without Kurama it's not that, without Kurama it's not that. You little fool." The fox boomed, letting off steam. However, he tried to justify his words a little. Where has it been seen that beings with divine origin and the same power thanked people? Naruto probably thought the same thing, so she smiled. "Come on, buddy. Still managed." The girl exclaimed joyfully. After all, now she can save her friends and save the world from unnecessary deaths without making the same mistakes. She left her subconscious, leaving Kurama alone. The young kunoichi did not leave the feeling of a trick, as if everything was not so simple. She noticed a slight change in herself. Her nose picked up the smells from the neighboring apartments. Chocolate cookies. Barbecue. Pull something scorched. It seems that the neighbors burned something in the kitchen. Her eyes. She saw more clearly and further than professional shinobi. Going to the window, she looked into the uncurtained glass of the neighbors. And calmly watched as the couple swore among themselves. The pupils were spinning wildly. The girl was at a loss. Something happened to her body, and she doesn't understand how it happened. The pain in my head made itself felt. The baby sank to the floor, trying to focus. The pain made my eyes water. Kurama, sensing her friend's condition, sent her a portion of soothing chakra, helping her to recover. Staggering, the girl stumbled to the bed and plopped down on it. Leveling her breathing, Naruto was thinking along the way. Her sensitivity improved, but severe headaches appeared. Is this a side effect after moving? That's about how it can be called, Kurama spoke up, remembering his father's words. And yes, Kurama, don't be surprised what will happen to her, I can't fix it. Did he mean, so can you explain to me what it all means? And how do I get rid of these terrible headaches? I can't do this anymore, Databeo. Uzumaki exclaimed irritably and squeezed her eyes shut, keeping on her feet only because of clan stubbornness. you are a walking lump of problems and troubles, Naruto Uzumaki. The fox groaned in anguish, not fully believing in his own conclusions himself. I'll try to convey, you empty head. Your prophecy has a sequel. What kind of prophecy are we talking about, Kurama? The girl asked incomprehensibly, even froze in surprise. You are a child of prophecy. However, your prophecy has an unpleasant sequel. The power of heaven will converge with human flesh and reveal a new ruler to the world. Having the power of the 9 tails, he will bring prosperity with him into this world. Wow, so I, as this very child, have the power of God? I'm cool, Databayo. Naruto was delighted. You are a simple-minded idiot, Naruto, and this, unfortunately, is not treated. It was about the power of the 9 tails, which means you will cease to be human. Naruto quieted down. She was still looking at the 9 tails questioningly. He exhaled heavily. Well, look. Having received the power of the 9 tails, you will completely merge the chakra with your tailed beast, that is, with me. And this means that your body will change so much that you will no longer be just a person. And who else will I be? You're a werewolf fox, Naru. You are a kitsune. They chatted with Kurama until the evening. It turns out that my headaches are explained by the fact that my new essence is trying to get used to this body. Yes, your father told you that you can use everything that you were capable of before. But here your body is small and weak, so you need time to fully recover. My God, how much you are burbling. You say that your favorite frogs were taught. It's not true. Everyone says that Burr is cute. Not in your case. You and Milo are different things and incompatible in terms of concepts. I'm not a thing. Well, yes, well, of course, jokingly arguing among themselves, they did not notice how night had fallen. Suddenly the fox shushed the amused girl. Hush you, what? I feel a familiar source of chakra. One of your old new friends is here. Pretend to be asleep. Naruto crawled under the blanket and froze. She slowed her breathing slightly, like sleeping people, and waited. The window frame creaked. Naruto slightly opened her eyes. Ashen hair flashed. Very familiar ashen hair. It's Kakashi-sensei, she mentally said. That's right, small. That's just not known what your half-witted teacher needs here. Kakashi put something on the table, then sat down on the chair in front of the bed. He looked at the child in front of him. On the child of his sensei, whom he promised himself to protect. And who lives in such terrible conditions. His conscience torments him. He was forbidden to visit her. They even forbade me to get acquainted. But he brings her something from time to time that won't arouse suspicion. He will wait until she grows up, so that later he can tell her what kind of heroes her parents were. He'll wait. In the meantime. The guy got up and jumped out of the apartment. Naruto opened her eyes and sat up on the bed. She looked at the table. On the table was a basket of vegetables and her favorite ramen, boxes of dango. Naruto smiled. Her sensei is in her repertoire. She's not alone, she has friends who will be proud of Kunoichi. The girl was skipping along the street, kicking the pebbles that fell under her feet. She would never have thought that she would be in such a hurry to go to a place where she had never looked unnecessarily before. She was in a hurry to go to the library. Oncoming passers-by, all as one, looked at her with undisguised disgust. They saw her as a monster. Unlike in her previous life, she understood their feelings now. But not the reason for the behavior. Is the person in whom the demon was sealed worthy of all the dirt that people pour on Jinchuriki, and do they become demons themselves? Having decided everything for herself, she did not understand why others decided differently. But one thing she was aware of clearly and clearly, like a white light. It's easier for them. It's easier to hate than to try to understand. It's easier to despise a demon than to figure out why he became a demon, and he's such a demon. And that didn't make it any easier. Kurama, feeling the coming melancholy of his girlfriend, began to pump his chakra to the girl quietly and imperceptibly, even for censors. I was hoping to calm you down. And he did it. Naruto jerked, shook herself like a cat caught in the rain, and snorted in the same way, from surprise and a surge of strength. A smile touched the corners of his lips. Kurama can deny it in every way, but she, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, knows that he appreciates and loves her no less than she loves him. His peculiar care warmed my heart and made me forget about sadness. Having reached the library, the girl opened the door. A bell tinkled, announcing the arrival of visitors. An absolutely gray-haired old woman pulled out from behind the library counter. Apparently, she was a librarian. Her hair, which seemed dead, was gathered into an elegant, strict bun. Wise, pale blue eyes looked warmly, as if everyone who came in was her old friend, and not a casual visitor to the library. The round face with sagging cheeks is riddled with a network of deep wrinkles. The woman was wrapped in a great many shawls and hung with beads. Seeing Naruto, the librarian smiled gently and asked in a raspy but pleasant voice, "What do you want to find here, young lady?" Perhaps her presence here looked a little strange. Most children can't read by the age of 3 yet, and here's what: the main clown, a disgrace to Konohagakure and a part-time girl, strenuously spoiling the last nerve cells of the hokage and all the shinobi of the village of the Hidden Leaf, showed up at the library. Granny, however, was not surprised, and she, spreading her arms to the sides, invited the girl to go deeper into the abode of books and wisdom. Panting, Uzumaki strode out of the library, dreaming of getting home. The brain ached from the abundance of information received during the day, and the hands were heavy with books that the girl had written out and now could not bring home. Hanko-san, which was the name of a pleasant librarian who helped the girl with the choice of literature, offered to take the girl home, saying that if you carry books, you won't get there yourself, but Nara refused the offer, because she is the future Hokage, which means to cope with all obstacles once and twice. Herbology, chakra techniques, medicine, natural jutsu, and this is only part of the volume selected by her. How to reach and deliver? Unclear. Puffing and cursing, Naruto remembered the whole world with her last words, under Kurama's heavy sigh. He kept getting upset. What a badass Jinchuriki he had, even if it was for show. In fact, he was amused by the sight of a girl fluttering, almost falling to the ground, but he could not laugh. His conscience would not allow it, or maybe he was afraid of falling under the hot hand of a friend. Even the ten-tailed Madara was afraid of her anger. What can we say about him? Naruto climbed a steep hillock, from which a winding path descended. I tried to get off it carefully, but I started to pick up speed and ran with a shaking stack of books in my hands. Stumbling, she was about to fly with her nose into the ground, but suddenly someone's strong hands intercepted her and saved her from falling, wrapping her in a kind of embrace. Kunoichi, in the image of a 3-year-old girl, looked up and came across the attentive gaze of black, like a raven's wing, eyes, from the corners of which wrinkles were moving away. I shuddered when I recognized this man, Uchiha Itachi, Sasuke's brother. Saved Konoha by destroying his own clan. It's stupid to be afraid of what has yet to be seen and learned. Self-sacrifice. A nameless shinobi guarding the world in his shadow. This is a real shinobi. I am grateful that my younger brother has a friend like you, Naruto. Naruto, I'll lend you some of my power. I hope there will never come a time when you should use it. The words of Itachi Uchiha, a renegade with a worldwide reputation, flashed in my head like sparks, again causing pain and suffering. Having left so early, he left behind an age-old wisdom and strength passed on to his brother, Sasuke. Having done so much, he preferred the welfare of Konoha to his own clan. Naruto deeply respected Itachi and appreciated his trust in her. Many of his words were firmly ingrained in her brain and set her life position. And now the man she knew appeared before her as an 8-year-old boy coming out of the forest and carrying kunai in his hands. The boy helped Naruto to get up, held and bent down, starting to collect the fallen literature and having a relaxed, light conversation, indicating that he was not at all angry at the girl who knocked him down. Naruto, who had recovered from the shock and pain, apologized, adopted his manner of conversation and supported him in the intention to chat. Probably, there are not so many people in his environment with whom you can just chat about the weather or dango, and not about training and ranks. A thought flashed through the blonde head. An unobtrusive conversation, while the guys were collecting books, flowed into an interesting dialogue. While the children, an 8-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, ignoring the age difference and the fact that they had just met, were chatting merrily, they did not even have time to notice how they reached the crossing to the main street of the village. After saying goodbye to each other, the new acquaintances dispersed. Before that, for Naruto, I didn't think about how much I need to do now. To stop the coup, to contact Bijou, to help Gaara, and all this fell on her shoulders. How hard it is to be a heroine of the world. Naruto firmly decided that the Uchi coup would not happen. To do this, you will need to remove Danzo and prepare Itachi. She will do this from day to day and will definitely help her beloved Sharingan bearers, POV, Itachi. He recognized her. She is the daughter of Minato-sama and Kushina-san. Hokage's daughter. Mom wanted to take her into custody. Hokage did not allow it. She is the same age as Sasuke, and she, a small child, is already hated for her existence alone. He liked her. She's an interesting conversationalist. Naruto knows how to listen and hear. She listens to him, even if he is not talking about the case, unlike her father. She pretends to be a fool, but he realized that this is not so. She's very smart. Even smarter than him. He could see it in her eyes. The look she gave him when he helped her, it says a lot. She knows more than everyone in this village. This involuntarily causes admiration. She would be a good friend to Ototo. Mom and Kushina-san wanted her and Sasuke to be friends. He has always stayed away, but now he wants to get closer to her. Father always said that Itachi could sense people. He feels that their friendship will be better for everyone. He would find her and introduce her to Sasuke someday. I wonder if she loves Dango? Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze has been living a new life for a year. Knowing perfectly well what her body is capable of, the girl in the body of a child stubbornly trained herself. She couldn't wait to get down to what had changed her new life. Kitsune mode. Kurama, who studied the components of the chakra of his Jinchuriki, came to the conclusion that the girl will be able to bring the essence of the Yukai into a full-fledged fox mode, and he has no less advantages than the hermit mode. About which he immediately informed his Jinchuriki. But so far, the girl has only practiced taijutsu. There was no person next to her who would control her training and stop her, almost like that. Although she communicated well enough with Itachi and his mother, Mikoto, with whom they crossed paths at the market and talked, they could not be trusted enough to show all the talents of Uzumaki. Therefore, so far the girl has been training her body on her own, preparing it for such physical exertion. Kurama, with the girl's feasible help, thanks to their daily training of sensorics and chakra control, as well as Fuinjutsu, in which he more or less understood, thanks to his stay in 2 female printers, was able to correct the seal set by Minato. Now he could pump his chakra to the girl, expanding her chakra canals and allowing her to develop even at night. Taijutsu was hard for her, but thanks to Kurama, who was messing with her like a diaper baby and controlling her every movement, generously seasoning the whole thing with sharp jokes, giving Naru the opportunity to relax a little. It became easier for her. Uzumaki was grateful to him for that. Her plans have changed a little. The girl talked to Itachi while eating dango about the academy. She should have become a genin earlier, and not let Mizuki, her nasty academic teacher traitor, steal a scroll with forbidden jutsu and pig out of the village to Orochimaru's lair. That's just how to do it, Naruto didn't know. But I have already decided the first step. After consulting with Kurama beforehand, she needs to become a genin without an academy. Now she didn't give a damn, to put it mildly, what moms say about her to their children about her. They say, a little monster, don't play with her. Inside a small, downtrodden and frightened girl lived a self-confident, brilliant girl, whom whispering behind her back would not break, and now they would not even upset. Now Naruto will not let himself be offended. Naru had more to do than Old Man 3. Which, by the way, she was heading for. Little Naru proudly strode down the street, not paying attention to the people's faces twisted from her appearance, with the firm intention of passing the correspondence exam for genin. It is desirable that the old Hokage himself takes it. Naru, whom Kakashi-sensei forced to learn not only the academy program, in which she was always goofing around, but also in-depth Ireninjutsu and Taijutsu, with Kurama under her arm and the war with the goddess and her minions behind her shoulders, was clearly smarter than the Hokage himself. She didn't care what the old man would think when she showed up to him and performed these simple techniques without attending the academy and having problems with the chakra. She wanted to become a genin as soon as possible. She could sort out all the basic truths of shinobi along with the techniques in front of the Hokage, if it would help her to refuse admission and enter the primary rank of shinobi, starting her path as a ninja. Yes, it was important for Naru to communicate with Iruka-sensei. And for a long time she did not dare to do so, knowing that then it would be impossible to make friends with her almost brother. That's why she wanted to become a genin, and then convince Hokage on a mission at the academy. Then her team, who had just graduated from the academy, did not want to go back there, even as nannies and assistants for children who did not become ninjas. She had a good chance to get acquainted and melt the heart of Iruka, who hated her, in order to become his favorite student again. She didn't think any further. She wasn't interested in whether they would make friends with Sasuke in this world, whether they would become a team. She only knew that she would nip his hatred in the bud if she could save the Sharingan clan. The residence was pleasantly cool, coming from freshly washed floors. Hiruzen was sorting through huge folders of documents. The old man was in a very good mood. Only one small detail spoiled the excellent mood of the spirit. The absence of Naruto. The little girl, the daughter of his successor, did not play pranks, which she loved to do, did not spoil the sights of Konoha, did not fight, and the most amazing thing was that she did not appear at the residence. She did not pester him with endless questions about the Hokage's work, did not scold the residents and did not swear with him. He hadn't seen her at all lately. The long-awaited lull came, which upset and even frightened the student of the first and second Hokage. He planned to visit little Jinchuriki today, after work. Suddenly, the office door swung open. "You've finally been found." A thought flashed through the gray old man's head. A girl in an orange suit stood on the threshold, disheveled like a sparrow. His hair, which he was used to seeing long, gathered in two tails, was already above his shoulders. The first change. The girl calmly, with the grace of a cat, went into the office and closed the door behind her. There was no epic flight, endless jumps on the spot and a smile covering the face. The second change. The child silently walked to the center of the room and only then greeted his grandfather in an even voice. Where have the screams and laughter gone, mixed with the eternal Dadabayo? The third change. Hiruzen was even scared. Who is this girl and where is their Naru? In danger? An enemy got in here and kidnapped a 5-year-old child? But after using his sensory abilities, the old man realized that their Naru was still in front of him. They crossed paths at most 3 times in the last year, and how long has it been like this? Greetings, old Hokage. Hello, Naruto-chan. The girl grimaced at the console. Hokage professionally ignored such a change in his face and continued, "What's with your hair, Naruto-chan?" He did not expect that she would not interrupt him, let him finish. "It's not like her. I cut them off," as you can see, calmly withstanding the confusion and fleeting fright on the Hokage's face, appearing due to the fact that the old man noticed very drastic changes in her behavior. Naruto replied with a slight grin. Yes, she wanted to impress him. Therefore, she even rehearsed how she would come in, consulted with Kurama on how best to present herself. If she had walked into the office with her feet as usual, then the third person would not have had enough motivation to give her a genin. "It suits you, Naruto-chan." Realizing that the girl would not tell him more today, the ruler of the leaf let off a compliment. "What brought you here?" "I would like to become a genin and join the service as a shinobi of the hidden leaf." Without a preface, she gave Naru away. Hokage was confused. Very confused. The old man did not expect Naru to communicate his almost impossible wish with such straightforwardness. And even more, I did not expect from this girl such tenacity in her gaze and confidence in her own victory. It was worth considering, but Hiruzen wrote off the child, not appreciating her and her strength. "I'm sorry, Naru-chan, but you're too young to take the genin exam." Sarutobi voiced one of the reasons for refusal. "Besides, you haven't even entered the academy yet, and there's no way without basic knowledge there." At shinobi, Naruto sighed heavily and looked out the window, rocking steadily in her chair. "We are waiting for an answer. But Uzumaki do not give up without a fight." The legs of the chair hit the floor loudly. Naruto looked at the startled Kage, and without breaking eye contact, began, "There are 5 great hidden villages. Each of them has its own Kage. Kage is the strongest shinobi of his village, recognized as its ruler. He is responsible for his village and represents it at the 5 Kage meeting. The assembly of the 5 Kages is a council of the strongest representatives of their villages. The meeting resolves the most important political issues aimed at preserving peace between the countries and strengthening each of them. The representative of the village of Leaf or the land of fire is Hokage. Now this position is held by Hiruzen Sarutobi, a student of the first and second Hokage. All Hokage, Hashirama Senju, his brother, Tobirama Senju, their disciple Hiruzen Sarutobi, and his successor, Minato Namikaze. Naruto spoke with all calmness, ignoring Sarutobi's bulging eyes. When Naruto listed all the bijou, Hokage cut her off in mid-sentence. "That's enough, Naru-chan. I can already see that you were seriously preparing for the exam. But don't forget about the techniques. You don't know them." "Are you sure about this, old Hiruzen?" Naru asked, looking mockingly at the man. Hokage froze. "Kagebunshin no jutsu," Naru shouted loudly. And so, in front of them stood 20 of her shadow clones. The old man's eyes bulged and he looked at Namikaze in amazement. "Where did you learn this technique, Naru-chan?" "What is it?" he asked. "It's a secret covered in dust, shadow, and darkness," Naruto said with a smile. Hiruzen slapped the table with his palms. "I accept your exam, Naruto-chan. From now on, you, Naruto Uzumaki, genin and shinobi of the hidden leaf." Smiling into his mustache, Sarutobi said, handing the protector to the girl and merrily muttering something to himself. "The sun has not yet had time to rise completely, and nature is already preparing for a new day with might and main." With the arrival of the first rays, the flower petals began to tremble, trying to open. A fresh morning breeze, playfully flying between the trees, dries the remaining dew, which sparkles in the sun like diamonds. The forest dwellers woke up, stretched sleepily. Birds, awakening from sleep, fill the air with their songs, fly up to the treetops. In one of the poorest areas of Konoha, in the house of a little girl, life was already in full swing. While Naruto was doing morning exercises and meditating, a couple of her clones were working hard. There was an appetizing smell of deliciously cooked miso from the kitchen. Naruto had to practice for a long time so as not to get poisoned and burn down her whole rundown house. The fact that Kakashi-sensei not only tried to introduce Naruto to a healthy diet, but also tried to teach a girl counting crows to cook something edible, helped a lot now. Praising Sensei's thoughtfulness and thanking the gods that the clones had left the house intact, Naruto scattered the spears and sat down to breakfast. She had plenty of time. The task has already been received. And the one she was counting on. Naru guessed that now that she had become a genin, Mizuki would not wait and would try to escape with the scroll at the first opportunity. Her mission was to babysit at the academy, but in a younger group. Kindergarten. Naruto, who she was a few years ago, would have declared. And Naruto, who she is now, would agree with her. If not for two buts. First, she finally got a brain and realizes that the scroll that she stole for the scoundrel sensei in the hands of Orochimaru takes a real danger. In her previous life, it didn't even occur to her why the teacher gave her a top-secret assignment. A child who is not able to pass the genin exam or create copies that are more or less similar to the original. The second is Iruka. Iruka-sensei became almost a father to her. She valued communication with this man very much and was incredibly afraid that their paths would diverge. And now, having returned to the past, Naruto wants to become almost his little sister again. But there is one catch: Iruka does not tolerate her spirit. Last time they became friends at the academy, getting to know each other a little better than the teacher and the student. She doesn't go to the academy now. And the man sees in her a nine-tailed man, whom he despises with all his heart. The ice will thaw later. It is only necessary to allow the sun to rise. That's exactly what she needs. Naruto was skipping down the street, tying a brand new protector, sparkling in the morning sun. The academy was not far away. Her taskmates were already here. A boy in a blue t-shirt, tied with a purple belt, a worn tread and with a wonderfully protruding lip, stood and looked attentively at the approaching girl. Along with him was a girl in a pale pink suit, standing with an independent look and looking at her own, and non-existent, manicure. When Uzumaki jumped up to her temporary teammates and greeted them, about to start the task, the boy blocked her way, glaring angrily with watery eyes. "Listen here, kid. Hell knows what you think you are, but we're not here to entertain you. We have an important mission, and we are waiting for our assistant, and I advise you to get out while you're safe." The worthless boy snorted, giving the golden-haired girl contempt. "Here are the ones on. Since when have children who have just been weaned from diapers become considered an important mission? Skip it, you idiot. Hokage personally gave me this mission." Pushed the stunned kid with Naruto's shoulder, flying straight into the building. The nearby jonins laughed. A man in a mask and with ash-colored hair sticking out in different directions, a boy with long black hair gathered in a ponytail, and a boy similar to him, but with a short haircut, cheerfully snorted, leaving behind complete equanimity, recognizing her scarlet-haired mother in the blonde, and followed the genins, telling the young about all the delights of shinobi work. Iruka had a bad feeling. Today, the arrival of experienced shinobi was planned at the academy, who should tell the students of his guise about the work of the ninja. To give a lecture, so to speak. The man himself strenuously advocated this idea in front of the Hokage, but now for some reason he was timid. A terrible feeling bound and paralyzed him, an icy lump crawling up his throat. And oddly enough, this feeling arose in those moments when his old friend Mizuki appeared next to him. Iruka did not dare to share his suspicions with someone, only watched a childhood friend, trying to catch signs, actions, and anything that was not typical for him. Mizuki went to tell the genins who came to the rescue that it was like at the academy, but then Iruka caught a little man with his peripheral vision, whom he did not expect to see today. Naruto Uzumaki. What's this girl doing here? The man was surprised, continuing to observe this phenomenon out of the corner of his eye. Her blonde hair was short and uneven, as if someone had cut it with scissors without looking. Elements of black and gray colors were added to the usual orange jumpsuit. The face, surprisingly, expressed only a slight interest, no more, and otherwise did not attract attention to his person in any way. He knew her. And I've already stopped hating. The girl occupied all the thoughts of the third Hokage for several months, and he shared it with Iruka. He told her how playful, restless, but brave she was. How ramen loves and constantly shot it. And then how she changed. I took up my studies, calmed down. Listening to the third, shame got the better of him. He despised the child. A child who doesn't even know how he deserved such an attitude. Iruka even planned to meet the girl. It was a surprise that she arrived at the academy as a genin. But then a sudden realization hit him and made him choke on air. 5 years. Became a genin. At the age of 5. The only person who could do it before her is Kakashi Hatake. No one else. Even Uchiha Itachi, and he's only at 7. This girl has already become a genin. Being in a stupor, Iruka moved his eyes around the audience a little stupidly, not looking for anyone in particular. Suddenly, the man felt the gaze on him, and guided by the sensations, turned his head in the direction of the genins. Caught Naruto's eye. She stared straight ahead, not hiding her eyes, as if she had not been caught spying on a teacher who had gone into his own thoughts. Naruto smiled. Hello, Iruka-sensei. How are you feeling? Hi, Naruto. Everything is fine, but what do you have? Iruka replied with a smile. Slowly. Okay, Iruka-sensei, I'll come up to you later, we'll chat. Your colleague is very angry about the lack of attention to his person. Naruto chuckled, playing with her eyebrows and rubbing the ceiling with her eyes. Mizuki choked with indignation and, blushing, glared angrily at the girl and her friend. Iruka nodded and stepped aside to let the children pass. Strange conversation. Especially when you consider that he was not personally acquainted with Naruto. Naruto was pleased with the situation like nothing before. Her sensei doesn't look angry, offended, hating her. Rather joyful. She will definitely make friends with Iruka-sensei. And judging by the look, he himself is not against this idea. Well, tell me, Kurama, who is easy in the country now, eh? The girl asked the fox, raising her eyes to the ceiling. Honestly, she wasn't like that. The children caught her terribly naughty. Her teammates are out, everyone is sitting quietly, playing with kunai dolls. And what about her? Naruto wanted to sit down and cry with him, but pride turned out to be higher than this desire, and now Naru, calling for Spartan patience in the world of the living, is trying to keep track of small, but full-scale disasters. I give you a tooth, nursing these kids is worse than the war with Kaguya. I was sharing a sore Naruto with a friend. The fox was laughing. He sincerely considered this situation comical. The heroine of the world is messing with the kids and losing to them on all fronts. A disgrace. The fox is also amused by the incessant whining of Naru, who can't cope with the toddlers. What he hastened to report. And what did he deserve? His girlfriend's offended pug? Suddenly, Mizuki poked his head into the room and recalled her teammates to help the other sensei in some way. Uzumaki tensed up. Mizuki was gushing with an unspeakably evil chakra and bloodlust. Apparently, it's about to start, said Naruto to the fox. The golden-haired girl took out a kunai and shoved it into the sleeve of a voluminous orange jacket, straight into the Fuinjutsu seal. So, for reinsurance, weapons are not superfluous. The trio disappeared, but Naruto felt with her back that Mizuki had not gone far. Out of the corner of her ear, the girl caught something sharp whizzing through the air towards her. A moment later, Naruto beats off shurikens with another kunai, glaring at Mizuki, who stared at her angrily in response. Their staring lasted for about a minute, and only then Mizuki broke the silence. Okay. At least you don't eat bread for nothing. What do you need? Uzumaki asked warily. She really didn't understand it. At that time, he came to her to steal the guarded scroll, and now he immediately attacks. Strangely. He already has the scroll, Kurama's voice informed her. He can already run to Orochimaru, but he decided to finish with you at last. Dirty acting, Naruto cursed mentally. Does he really want to slip out of the academy where the A-rank shinobi are located? Dream as much as you want, you vile type. You shouldn't do that. The loss has not been noticed yet. If they understood, they would have already strung up shinobi from the academy. Everyone would have rushed to search. The fox hastily informed her, damn, Databeo. Okay, let's do what the others can't handle. Naruto answered him. Her plans were to beat Mizuki beautifully, but suddenly Naruto remembered that they would meet again and fight when he escaped from prison. And if she shows her skills now, then the would-be sensei will have a significant advantage over her. We need to act in such a way that no one understands anything. You have creative thinking. What are we going to do now? What techniques? Helped her with Kurum's thoughts. But how? Wait a minute, Naruto braked. There are shinobi in the building. Strong shinobi. In the ninja code, it is written in black and white that it is strictly forbidden to attack your own. No, said Naruto, we don't use any techniques. And we won't fight either. We'll set a trap for him, and he'll set himself up. And how? 9. Tails asked. I'll just pretend to be an incompetent Kalima. We'll bring him to the ninja. Murder weapons mixed with malicious curses flew at Naruto. She dodged the knives with all her might, simultaneously trying to concentrate and figure out how to bring Mizuki to other shinobi. Which side of the shinobi building? In which side of the shinobi building? My temples were pounding when a kunai flew past her head, half entering the wall. Naruto felt the chakra of Itachi and Sensei. Jumping out of the hall like a bullet, the girl quickly rushed to the opposite end of the building. She twisted and twisted, making noise and attracting attention. When Mizuki loomed over her and said, finally, I will cleanse the world of such scum as you. He wanted to strike. His kunai intercepted Irika. Shinobi jumped on the man from both sides, twisting him and wringing his hands. Naruto crawled behind Irika and hid. Where did you get the secret scroll, Mizuki? We received information that a scroll with forbidden techniques was stolen. Here he is, already found. Mizuki was struggling, fluttering in the hands of Itachi and Shursui, when suddenly he screamed, Irika, why? This monster killed your parents, and you're protecting her? Irika froze. And then he answered, her parents were killed by this monster, too. Naruto shuddered. Itachi's hand rested on her shoulder. Naruto nodded gratefully, feeling support not only from Uchiha, but also from Kurama, muttering something about vile people offending his precious Jinchuriki, and shaking his chakra to her on the sly. Naru glanced briefly at the ash-haired shinobi, but he suddenly winked at her, smiling with his eyes. Naruto smiled back. Mizuki howled in agony and threw the hidden kunai at the unsuspecting Irika, who was still looking at Naruto. Uzumaki turned pale. Sensei, flew through the girl's head. She waved her hand. The kunai, sealed in her hand at the beginning of the battle, flew out and knocked off the weapon, flying straight into the teacher's forehead, and with a quiet clang it pierced the wall. Everyone froze, shocked by the lightning reaction of the girl. Naruto giggled. How are you, Iruka-sensei? Naruto was constantly running on assignments, strenuously earning a living. The baby forgot about fatigue, falling into the apartment after midnight and falling asleep without even changing clothes. As soon as her blonde head touched the pillow, Kurama, who finally merged the chakra with a 5-year-old girl, pumped her energy, expanded the chakra canals and helped Naruto to strengthen his abilities even during sleep. In those rare carefree evenings, when little Genin had a drop of free time, the girl continued to train according to the Kitsune regime. Naruto learned to draw tails and create illusions without using chakra. The girl did not have the element of fire, so she expected to receive it only when she entered the full-fledged body of a werewolf fox. Kurama tried to analyze all the abilities that were given to his dear carrier. Admittedly, he was very impressed. Even with the presence of the 9 tails, with his virtually unlimited supply of chakra, the power living in his little Jinchuriki was too great. Even for a demigod on the line of reincarnation. Little Kunoichi, incomprehensible to Kurama, restrained not only the almost unbridled power of her tailed beast, but also her former strength with the gift of Kitsune. Kurama was very concerned about this fact. After all, Minato's seal helped in many ways, holding the fox's power and taking the girl's chakra for her own maintenance. If Naru masters the Kitsune mode, then the seal will simply collapse, and it is not known how it will end. Will his girlfriend withstand such a not only physical, but also moral, almost insurmountable load? Kurama didn't know the answer. This unnerved the fox, and made the cause of his torment nervous, Naruto herself. The girl understood her friend's confusion, but she knew that if she did not master the regime given during rebirth, did not tame the power and rage contained by the seal, then there was no point in counting on the former power, and you could not even try to switch to the hermit mode. Therefore, Naruto, not listening to the exhortations of a friend, intensively practiced taijutsu. The power of thought and will inherent in all shinobi from birth, and developed by Naruto even before becoming a ninja, is half the battle. Much more important was physical strength, or to be more precise, its complete absence. Naruto was really a weak girl, with regard to the physical plan, and her strength began to appear during training with Kakashi-sensei. The girl needed to overcome her physical barrier and not die when using the regime of her conscripts. It was also important not to give offense to the residents of Konoha. After all, she had more than once or twice flown from them, so that then the girl could not walk for several days. Right now, Naruto will not give himself offense, and if someone hits Konoha's little demon in the head, then the demon will not tolerate it, and that unfortunate one risks getting a Rasengan in the forehead. Fortunately, Uzumaki has enough strength for him. Attempts to cook something edible failed miserably. Naruto, angry as hell, was rushing around the apartment in search of a mop. The girl for once decided to learn how to cook, snatched a day out of her busy schedule of training and missions, bought everything she needed, spending all the orphan's allowance, still issued by the old man, to her as genin. But her beautiful vegetable stew from something went bang and remained on the ceiling in the form of an unappetizing smelly slurry. The desire to cook was blown away by the wind walking around the apartment. Kurama giggled at the girl, sincerely hoping that she would not understand his tricks. And what can I do? Naruto has been too tense lately, and he decided to make a little joke. The fox just directed his chakra first to the stew, then to the stove, so that the girlfriend did not notice the splash from the seal. And reacting with the stove, on which Naru inadvertently slammed the plate, Namikaze's future dinner flew into the air. Kurama neighed like a horse, rejoicing that his Jinchuriki relaxed a little and was distracted from thoughts about training in his past and future friends. He understood that the baby was just missing them, but plunging into melancholy, nothing good would have come of their plans. Naruto shook herself up, and throwing the remains of dinner in the trash, she began to bombard the old man with the wishes of serious missions, preferably with an ANBU squad, sincerely believing that she was strong enough for joint assignments with the elite of the shinobi world. Kurama was shaking his huge head. The third one will never send Genin with ANBU, no matter how strong he is. Naruto Uzumaki cooed alone on the playground. The third was busy and sent the girl to rest. Naruto did not expect to rest. Although she wanted a little free time, but not when the melancholy began. She didn't want to go home, her longing would have stuck there, so Naru came to the place of nostalgia, the playground. Previously, she would have given anything to have someone play with her, mess around in the sandbox. Now the girl was secretly happy that all the local moms with their kids had fallen through the ground and did not stick out. Naru, thanks to Shikamaru and Kakashi-sensei, loved silence very much. But not the one that hangs in her apartment, frightening, ringing, gradually deafening, but the one that stands in the sleeping village, the pre-dawn forest. Therefore, Naru quietly rocked on the rocker, listening to the creaking of the hinges that had not been lubricated for a long time and enjoying the fact that no one disturbed her illusory state of calm and temporary peace of mind. Footsteps were heard. Naruto turned around in fear that she might be caught thinking and driven away. The girl froze in surprise. Standing in front of her was a boy not much older than herself. The oval face with narrow brown eyes was as surprised as she was. The guy's hair was black, spiky, gathered in a ponytail at the back of his head, reminiscent of Irika's hairstyle. He was dressed in a mesh t-shirt, over which a short vest was thrown, and cropped dark trousers. A bag for kunai was fixed on his hip. The boy froze in surprise. He didn't expect to see Uzumaki here. He saw the girl on the playground, even wanted to meet her, and then she disappeared somewhere. The last time he saw her was a couple of months ago, and then briefly, on the street. And now the girl, who began to behave extremely unusually for herself, is caught by surprise by him on the playground. His father said that Naruto Uzumaki was making progress in his ninja career, even advised him and Chuji to take an example from her. Therefore, the boy, having dispersed the usual laziness, wanted to start a relaxed dialogue with this strange girl. Naruto was shocked. In the boy who had so brazenly pulled her out of his thoughts, it was with great difficulty that her little friend, Shikamaru Nara, was recognized. Although, at that age, they could not be called friends, they were just good friends. Shika was so dear, so familiar to her that she wanted to hug the little boy in front of her and cry for a long time, remembering the brightest moments from their biographies with him. The appearance of Nara strangely destroyed in her the dam of indifference and absolute calm that she had been building from the very beginning of her stay here. Shutting herself off from everyone, she was sure that she would move away from her old life. But no. She was digging a hole for herself. All the moments have not been erased, they are fresh in the girl's memory, and when they saw familiar people close to her, they flooded over her and demolished all her vaunted self-control. Kurama is tired. Only the big-headed friend of his dearest bearer was missing for complete happiness. And so on the verge of hysteria, Naru could simply not stand this meeting. He remembered Shikamaru perfectly, the smartest shadow boy from the Nara clan. One of the few who treated Naruto like a human being. He was a really important person in Jinchuriki's life. That's just their meeting was not in the plans, because now Naru could throw anything, from joy to anger, and what she would do is a mystery even for him. Kurama was getting nervous. A friend has always been unable to achieve emotional stability, as he told her more than once, and after moving here, her swing intensified and she became absolutely unpredictable in her actions. the unpleasant silence dragged on. No one dared to start a conversation. Shikamaru, without changing his habits, sat down on a nearby swing and, surrendering to the mercy of mosquitoes, quietly sighed. It was necessary to say at least something, at least out of politeness. Hemorrhoids. It was barely audible from Naruto's side, to which this word has stuck since those times. Shikamaru almost fell off the swing. Does she express herself in the same way, in the manner of the Nara clan? How is Shikamaru? There's no other way. Nara replied. You don't look well. What's wrong with you? They filled up with tedious missions. And I'm too lazy to cook something. Complained about Naru's life. It's sad. And I have a furnace in the academy, the sensei are ready to devour with giblets, my mother is angry because I'm lazy, and my father, on whom all the documents from the Hokage's office fell, so he cancelled the shogi party, which I had been hoping for all week. Even sadder than I thought. Will you teach me? Shikamaru was surprised. Extremely surprised. They were sitting on the roof of Nara's house, facing each other. We decided not to go far, and settled down where it was convenient. Still, the game is big enough, and it's not a fact that the absence of a playing board with everything adjacent will remain unnoticeable. In front of each was the end of the shogi board. After explaining the rules of the game in detail, their party began. Naruto turned out to be a very good student. Pretty soon she got used to it, and now, laughing merrily, with her silver direct. I removed his horse from the field. Her playing abilities made Shikamaru doubt that the little girl in front of him had really never competed before, and her gaiety and enthusiasm were in a sincere desire to win. However, maybe Shikamaru is just not used to such a vivid display of emotions, usually limiting himself to simple, I'm too lazy, or hemorrhoids. Her naivety was slightly surprising, and did not fit in with the image that the village provided him. A soulless monster? A bloodthirsty killer? Don't make me laugh. This girl doesn't even kill mosquitoes, she's just shaking herself off, and you're talking about murdered people? But Shikamaru is not a fool. He did not believe the rumors by a single gram, but he did not throw everything off on the stupidity of the villagers. Rumors are such a thing, it doesn't come out of thin air. Something, yes, caused hatred, that fierce hatred that goes from people to Naru. And Shika doubts that the reason was trivial. What? No, I couldn't lose again, Databeo. Shika, how is this possible, Kinte? It's time to admit that you won't become an excellent player overnight. Shikamaru laughed, stretching lazily. Although this time you were better than in the last game. There you made a mistake from scratch. Well, at least you'll know how to gape at the most crucial moment. And yet, you've lost again. Oh, shit, okay. Makamasita. Naru chuckled and bowed slightly in the best Japanese traditions. This lazy atmosphere was interrupted by a knock on the door. The guys were sitting on the roof, Shikamaru's window looked directly at her, so Nara could come into the house at any moment. The window was open, so they saw Shikamaru's mom, Yoshino Nara, enter the room. Naruto remembered this woman well. Strict, domineering, but at times gentle woman perfectly fit into the family of passive Nars and dominated over Shikaku and Shikamaru. Temari is the same. She is a woman with dark brown hair tied in a low ponytail with strands falling over her face, fair skin and deep dark eyes. She was wearing a pink blouse and a dark skirt with an apron over them. Earrings hung in her ears. Yoshino flew into her son's room like an arrow. Shikamaru, get up. I understand that you're lazy, but no one canceled dinner. Your father won't come, deign to come at least tea. Not seeing her son lying on the bed as usual, the woman broke off. A little confused. Shikamaru didn't want to go anywhere today. How strange, she thought that my gaze fell on the window. Yoshino froze in surprise. Her son was sitting on the roof. Nothing unusual, but he wasn't alone. A 5-year-old girl with short wheat-colored hair and blue eyes kept the air of the Nara clan company. The girl was wearing orange pants, the same jacket was tied on her skinny hips, and only a black t-shirt remained on top. Naruto Uzumaki, Yoshino knew the girl. With Kushina, they were never bosom friends, but their husbands communicated well enough, and the women themselves were moderately, but close. She found out about Kushina's pregnancy by accident and was sincerely happy for the woman and Minato. When the news came that the fourth and his wife died, leaving behind a baby, Yoshino tried to take custody of the girl, as well as Mikoto. The third did not allow and even tried to forbid her to communicate with the girl. Yoshino understood that it wasn't his fault, that the elders had done it all, but she poured out all her indignation on Hiruzen. The woman was angry. The child of the fourth, the child of heroes, the one who protects the village from the nine-tailed from birth, lives in poverty, suffers the bullying of the near-minded inhabitants every day of God and barely makes ends meet. But the little girl was not allowed to be taken by her family, and after a couple of years they completely established a taboo on Nara's contact with Uzumaki, completely cutting her off from those who can help her. Yoshino smiled slyly. To spite the whole village, I will break the ban on our communication, and let only Sarutobi try to insert a word against. She thought. Oh, hello. Shika, I think I'll run, it's too late. Bye. Naruto jumped up. Shikamaru, you idiot, why didn't you say we had guests? I would at least get ready a little. Wait, Naruto, take your time. Have you played? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Naruto, do you want to stay for dinner? Shikaku is not here today, and you shook Shikamaru up a lot. Oh, I don't even know, Yoshino-san. This is extremely unexpected, stay. Let's even have a sleepover. It will be boring without you again. Unexpectedly for everyone, including myself, Shikamaru asked her. Naruto was completely confused, having other plans for the evening and at the same time not wanting to give up. It's decided. Today you are visiting us, said Yoshino, pleased with the situation. They had a delicious dinner. Naruto got used to the company of this woman a little, and they agreed that Shikamaru was too lazy. We played with Sheik until late at night. Naruto got home only the next morning, having already had breakfast and becoming a welcome guest in the house of the head of the Nara clan. Naruto. Naruto was sleeping soundly, exhausted from today's training. Naruto, the insistent voice in his head, damn it, kept calling the girl. Naruto waved him away with all her hands and feet. Naruto, the sensitive sense of smell of a young beginner kitsune did not disappoint. As soon as the girl woke up enough to try not only to feel the surrounding factors with her receptors, but also to analyze what she felt, her nose caught a strong, acrid smell of burning. The body hurt a lot after training, but Naruto, feeling a trick, overcame herself and jumped up. After a sharp rise, my eyes darkened, my head buzzed. His eyes, not used to the light, watered. Naruto was horrified. Her whole room was ablaze with scarlet flames. The fire devoured everything it could reach. Furniture burned, blackened wallpaper burned. Sheets of paper on the table flashed. The flames almost reached the bed where the girl was sleeping. The baby's consciousness was captured by panic, devouring all reasonable thoughts. I wanted to sit down and cry. Her house, her dear house, is practically destroyed. A trifle, pull yourself together. This is not the time to cry. You'll cry later, as soon as you get out of here alive. The subconscious screamed in Kurama's voice. It affected the girl like a tub of ice water. With one jerk, she raced through the house, straight to the meter. It was necessary to prevent the possibility of an explosion. The destruction was enormous. Almost the whole house burned down and was already threatening to collapse, dragging a child with him to the next world. Pulling the levers and de-energizing everything, Naruto planned to jump out the window. The fire has captured almost the entire space. Right in front of the window frame, Naru froze. Up to that moment, collected, now she has again become a small, frightened child, who was notably knocked down by the war. She was strong, brave, unpredictable, but she was and remained a little girl who had to grow up too early, and take on such a responsibility that not even every adult can stand. Tears ran down her face, smeared with soot. Naruto finally surrendered to the bonds of panic that overwhelmed her with her head. The fire touched gentle hands. Seemingly safe, kind and affectionate, a beautiful scarlet tongue, he destroyed the child's skin as mercilessly as the resurrected Madara killed the ninjas who tried to protect the leaf. There was still salt water in his eyes. The smell of burning intoxicated her head, and even the fact that she was standing next to the window, the passage to which was blocked by flames, did not help in a stalemate. Oxygen. My head is buzzing, Naruto is getting stupid from lack of air. Oxygen, my legs gave out. Suddenly, the window broke, and a gray shadow flew into the room. In an instant, the shadow darted to the girl, and picking her up in her arms, jumped out of the house. There was a crash. A second, two, bam. The house collapsed, almost taking 2 human lives with it. Anbu in a weasel mask appeared with a baby in his arms. The third exhaled with relief. They just rushed to the scene of the fire, and Itachi, and it was he, without waiting for an order, rushed into the house and in less than a third of a minute pulled out the Uzumaki baby. After all, I was not mistaken, and they really became friends. Hiruzen thought as he looked at the child in his subordinate's arms. Anbu would never have saved a stranger without a direct order. For this, they may be deprived of their positions, or even completely block their shinobi career. But, apparently, for the genius of the Uchiha clan, Naru was more expensive than a post and a career. Hiruzen was glad of this, so he didn't even think about punishing his subordinate for his willfulness. The girl was put on an oxygen mask. Hiruzen tensed and, kneeling down in front of Naru, carefully peered into the child's face. The stripes have become much deeper than since our last meeting. The third slightly lifted Naruto's body and almost collapsed to the ground. Impossible, the girl had 2 tails, fox-like, apparently. Merging with the grass in the light of the flame, burnt, but tails. And obviously not because of the influence of Kyuubi. They did not smell of chakra, heat and fire. There was a feeling that these were exactly the same tails as those of ordinary animals. Ordinary foxes, Hokage-sama, Itachi started, but froze. He noticed human appendages. The others noticed it too. Weapons were pointed at the unconscious child, ready to defend themselves and protect the Hokage from, as they thought, the Kyuubi. Stop it. Immediately. Hiruzen shouted. The Anbu lowered their weapons. Hokage watched the movement of the tails with all his attention. More precisely, for their complete absence. If it had been a Kyuubi, he would have been tearing and throwing, since even tails appeared. Or Naruto would have done it, being in his power. This did not happen. The tails rested peacefully next to their new mistress. Sarutobi thought about it. He shuddered. Folded an unknown ANBAA combination of seals. The girl's tails lit up with a dark scarlet flame, without touching the blonde. Itachi jerked in her direction, fearing that the flame could harm Naruto, but remembered that for the Hokage she is like a native granddaughter, and he would not do anything that could undermine her health. The same dark scarlet stripe spread across the girl. They covered the whole body. Because of the shadow falling on them, the lines of the technique seemed almost black. Naruto began to resemble a tiger cub. The ANBU closely watched the actions of their hokage. Itachi was sitting on his knees in front of the girl, ready to neutralize the third's technique if necessary. He understood that he could be deprived of the post of captain for disobeying and hindering the hokage, or even worse, but he could not help himself. He surprisingly quickly became attached to Uzumaki, and considered her to be something like a younger sister. His gentle disposition is playing an evil game with him again. The ash-haired guy in the dog mask was also closely watching Hiruzen's actions. But he wasn't ready to save Naruto in case of anything. Hindering the Hokage is not a joke, and he is used to obeying the rules established in the village. As far as possible, really. If necessary, he will break them, if necessary. If his comrades are in danger, he will go against the whole village. The angry fox chakra was gushing from the teacher's daughter. Not evil, hating, namely angry. It seemed that the fox was angry at Naruto, but the overwhelming hatred with which he treated all people was not felt at all. It was amazing and a little annoying, like Kakashi and everyone else. What is the nightmare of the whole village up to? To the dismay of Itachi and Shursui, who came to report on the state of the house to the third, suddenly the girl grew second ears. More precisely, her little ears transformed into something similar to the fox's hearing organs. Small, red, shaggy, with black tassels on the tips, like a lynx. The stripes on the cheeks deepened even more, the nails grew out, becoming like claws, with which it was quite possible to scratch out someone's eyes. The burns on Naruto's body healed, but the censors, no matter how hard they tried, did not feel the Kyubi no Yoko chakra, which they thought was treating the child. The wounds on the fire-scorched tails, which had grown in an unknown way in humans, also rapidly healed. The coat became brighter, thicker, lush, filled with strength and color. The tails twitched. Once. Second. The ANBU were ready to fight. The girl opened her blue eyes. A little sick. The third Hokage peered into the heavenly apple with vertical, predatory pupils. The girl's eyes were reasonable, cold, not covered with a film of hatred. So I'm right, and it wasn't the fox who helped us grow tails from a human child, Hiruzen thought with relief. Naruto was suffering. Both physically and mentally. Her house, the storehouse of so many secrets that the Jinchuriki girl kept in it, the abode of many memories, both from the past and from this life, everything is lost, and most likely, irrevocably. Her body ached, Uzumaki felt like she was going to vomit, her limbs felt like someone had filled them with molten lead, there was a vague noise in her head that prevented her from concentrating. At the level of intuition, the girl felt that several pairs of eyes were watching her. She turned her head, the narrow, dark eyes of the third Hokage peeking out from under the hem of the hat looked at her sympathetically, compassionately. Naruto even felt slightly disgusted. Only after a minute of staring with Hiruzen, the girl discovered that the feeling of the presence of several people was not deceptive. A dozen ANBU surrounded a third squatting in front of her. She definitely recognized Kakashi-sensei, Shursui, and Itachi. It seemed that Yamato Tenzo was standing behind Hatake and carefully watching the girl's actions. The ANBU clutched their weapons, clearly ready to fight. But only with whom? Naruto still threw up. Kneeling and emptying her stomach, which could not withstand the emotional and physical overload of her mistress, Uzumaki felt incomprehensible movements behind her back. She turned around, snatching the kunai hidden in the clan seal on the fly. And froze. A tail? 2 tails, there was no limit to Namikaze's surprise. Apparently, against the background of stress she just started hallucinating. 2 red tails coming out of her loin, but not tearing her pajama pants, fluttered as if they were the embodiment of magic, clearly showing the amazement of their new mistress. A scarlet gold glow radiated from them, without a grain of chakra, confirming Naruto's assumption about the presence of magic in them. Did Kurama break the seal and there was a fire on the background of his chakra? But then why is there no hint of Kurama's influence in the tales? Thoughts blocked new sensations. Strange, even funny, the feeling that a leaky hat was put on his head, which does not save a damn thing from the piercing wind, was not the most pleasant. The girl tried to throw off such an undesirable wardrobe element now, but her palms clung to two incomprehensible appendages. Upon closer inspection and groping, they turned out to be ears. "How do you feel, Naruto-chan?" Hiruzen's soft voice sounded under his ear. Naruto, deep in her thoughts and forgetting about outsiders, almost screamed in surprise. As a person who suddenly passed into the light of God and was resurrected anew, Namikaze answered without hiding her fright and fatigue. "It's ironic, because that's exactly what happened to her a few years ago. Can you tell us what caused the fire? Do you know that?" The gentle voice of the third calmed. "No, I can't. I do not know, the third one is myself. I woke up, and everything is already on fire." Naru replied, stammering. Signs of tears appeared in his eyes. "Shursui, Kakashi, take Naruto to the hospital. It needs to be examined," the Hokage ordered. Anbu Konoha nodded in agreement. "I don't want to go to the hospital, Grandpa the Third." "I'm not going." Naruto howled, which Shursui tried to take by the hand. "Okay, send her to the hotel, get a room on behalf of Hokage. Apparently, you're feeling pretty good if you managed to argue as well as the current situation allows." Hiruzen smiled, deciding not to argue with the girl. Naruto walked behind her companions with an incredibly sad look. Shursui lightly put his arm around her shoulders, which gave her calmness and the ability to think soberly. Hatake walked ahead of their company, leading them along the necessary route. "Naruto." Kurama's mournful voice rang out in the girl's head. Naruto, for the umpteenth time during this endless night, almost screamed out loud. "Kurama." The girl's cry to all the rather big subconscious caused Kyubi another rush of headache. The echo rolled through the cage, and went for a walk along the corridors, aggravating the situation. "Naru. It's my fault. I'm sorry, I didn't want it to happen like this," the fox told her in an unusual tone for both the girl and himself, ignoring Naruto's screams, although he used to regularly make remarks to her. What?" The aquamarine eyes stared in amazement. "Damn, didn't this fool understand anything? Kami-sama, talk sense to this stupid child and give me strength and patience. Didn't you guess, you fool? It wasn't just a fire. It was arson. Mine, accidental, but arson," he said in an iron Tanesh the fox. "Why, Kurama? You didn't do it on purpose, did you?" What else could she ask? The explanations are long, and you're too scared. Let's postpone this conversation. Well, no, let's do it now. I want to know why my beloved house turned into a pile of ashes and coals. The girl roared no worse than a fox. Okay, don't shout," Kyubi cut her off, returning to his usual caustic manner. "There will be a story for you. While you were sleeping, I decided to check out how things are going with the fox werewolf regime there. I had to dig around with the seal and then, with the help of the chakra, materialize a barrier in my cage that restrains the fox power in you and does not allow you to use it. I thought, let me expand the chakra canals, pouring the maximum of my chakra into them, and directing all the chakra, and at the same time the power, both yours and mine, to the barrier. So I did. You sleep like a brick, nothing, you feel it, and you don't bother me. I finally broke through the barrier." But he did not take into account the fact that the force that came out because of him had to go somewhere. Messed up, in short. In the first outburst of your energy, which manifested itself in tails, ears and other natural changes that are not characteristic of humans, not only they appeared in the light of God, but also their constant accompaniment. Fire, in short, the fire coming out of the mode specifically can still hurt you, because you haven't mastered kitsune yet. The body has not fully mastered the new component, therefore, most likely, you will vomit, no matter how rude it sounds, for the next 2 weeks, if not more. With the first outburst of chakra and magic, fire also came out, so everything caught fire. Naruto was in a stupor. That is, it turns out that I am my own little housing that, Don't scream, and it's so sickening. No, my dear, I did it, breaking through your barrier and not keeping track of the fire. Why did you even decide that it was somehow sideways to blame? Well, this is my barrier, and my fire, don't yell to whom they say. Naruto fell silent. Shui, as if sensing the girl's sadness, he stroked her head. He also remembered her parents, as well as Itachi and Kakashi. He often saw Minato, because he was a close friend of the son of the head of the clan, even often coming to his house. But Kushina-san had her own plans for everyone visiting her house. Feeling the taste of the desired motherhood, the woman intercepted absolutely all visitors to her place of residence and sat down to eat. The woman cooked above all praise, and she loved this business, and Shui loved to eat. Therefore, with enviable regularity, he kept company at the hokage dinner. He used to talk about their future child. And Kushina-san always, when asked about it, let me listen to her big tummy, periodically kicking. The boy was very surprised when Kushina-san was kicked from the inside for the first time, and she screamed. Itachi and Kakashi, whom she usually drove off her roof, also did it. Right now, keeping up with the girl he had known since before she was born, Shui was gnawing at his conscience. He knows her parents more than she knows herself, and this feeling shame devoured the young man from the inside, and forced him to press the stressed child closer, sharing warmth, hoping to somehow calm and help. Where are we going? Naruto asked, not addressing Anyoni in particular, but smiling gratefully at Master Shunshin. To the hotel. You need to live somewhere. Or didn't you hear the third one? Kakashi replied gruffly. Shui looked at him reproachfully, but said nothing. Obito was right when he called young Kakashi a harmful boy who does not take into account anyone. It is unlikely that I will be allowed into the hotel in this form. Copying Hataki's rude intonation, Naruto objected, expressively pointing to the blackened, burning-smelling pajamas, and this, a thin hand decorated with burns, pointed to the tails, will finish off my already worthless reputation in the village. What makes you think that? You never know what happened to you. Well, fox tails. And the attack of Kyubi, who is a fox. People's associations won't be the most pleasant, you know. In the Isof society, this will only confirm that I am a demoness in human form, who appeared from hell according to their sinful souls, don't you think? Shui and Kakashi were confused. They thought that what was sealed in her was carefully hidden from the girl, but she knows, and speaks about it calmly, confident that they are aware. From where? The third, without batting an eye, tore off Uzumaki. Well, what? The truth about rebirth, should I tell them? The guys fell silent. In such matters, it is better not to contradict the third, and the girl, obviously, does not care. Look how calm she is, you can already envy her. So much has fallen on a 6-year-old child, and she walks beside him, and softly hums to herself. Naruto really was as calm as possible. Already gone completely, she looked at the dark sky, at the stars, and enjoyed the landscape, trying not to think that she was, in fact, homeless, and there was a possibility that the third had no conscience, and would have to live side by side with this landscape on a permanent basis. The darkness of the night was devouring. Stars blinked in the black firmament, frogs croaked and grasshoppers chirped in the waving grass. The air was intoxicatingly fresh, especially after the unbearably stupefying smell of burning and smoke. The trio got into the hotel through the window. A girl on her own, they found an empty room, hiding it like a treasure from the prying eyes of outsiders. And they left her there, having agreed with the hostess and asked not to enter her and not to let any of the staff and visitors in. At first, the outraged hostess almost wanted to kick out the insolent shinobi who had forgotten how to use the doors, but when she heard, on behalf of the third Hokage, she immediately became as accommodating as possible. Naruto was left to her own devices. After washing up and somehow taking control of new body parts, she fell asleep the remaining night hours right in the hotel bathrobe. Naruto! Naruto, wake up! Someone gently shook the girl on the shoulder. They've already been bullied. And before the fire, and after, they don't let you sleep off, Uzumaki. Company, rise, and under the convoy. The general has come. A very familiar voice barked an order right under Naru's ear. From the sound hitting right on the brain, the girl jumped up with lightning speed, and seeing people in the room in whom she did not recognize anyone, and with a speed not inferior to Konoha's yellow lightning, prescribed the loudest right in the nose. More precisely, to the place where he was supposed to be. The screamer's whole face was tied with a black cloth. The man who did not have time to react received an aristocratic physiognomy, namely, right on the noble nose, the beauty of which was felt and discernible even under a black rag sticking to his face like a second skin. The ceramic mask of the dog, raised to the forehead and revealing a face hidden under another mask anyway, flew off and got a large crack. CSR. Uzumaki, what are you doing? Crazy girl. Clamping the bleeding nose, quickly soaking the dark mask with scarlet liquid, howled only Kakashi-sensei. Shursui, standing next to him, was grinning, looking at Captain Anbu, who had been spoiled by a cute profile by a 6-year-old girl, who was now almost crying from annoyance and a nasty pulling pain. Shifting his gaze to Naruto, Shursui became even more amused. Wheat-colored hair, tousled from sleep, flew up, divided into 9 strands, shaggy fox ears turned up, 2 tails wildly swung from side to side, and eyes burned with righteous anger. However, she didn't look like a kubi, but Kushina-san was very angry. And many people were afraid of Kushina-san in a rage, including Kakashi, as she did not skimp on kicks. And what about him, Shursui? Kushina-san loved him because he is a faithful taster of her culinary masterpieces. She never shoved him. And they had heard a lot about the character of the younger Namikaze, so they both knew that it was not worth anything for her to kick Captain Anbu. Especially knowing how she trains and what strength she has. Oh, hey, it's not good for Hatake now, it seems. What are you yelling at, Databeo? They didn't teach you to knock before locking yourself in the room. Why did you come here and command yourself? Uzumaki roared. She gave Kakashi a heavy slap on the back of the head, knocking his ashen hair to the side, and making it look more like a washcloth. Kakashi didn't even try to dodge, too confused and, it seems, even a little resigned with the newly acquired position of a punching bag for the daughter of a deceased teacher. Well, don't wring the hands of a 6-year-old girl, no matter what an asshole she is, really. Calm down, you problem girl. We were told to escort you to the Hokage, and you only delay the completion of our task with your laziness and inability to control your hands, but you clearly have problems with voice control and reaction speed. The girl literally spat in Hataki's face, without even lowering her tone. Shursui calmed down and looked at this picture with silent bewilderment. Captain Anbu, the famous copying ninja Hatake Kakashi, whose name-ish makes even seasoned warriors walk under him, he seriously argued with a 6-year-old girl who just 3 months ago, maybe a little more, as she became a genin, and clearly lost in this discussion. But on the other hand, is he not a person, or what? And Naruto will also give them a head start, if only she had the desire, and she has a desire. Shunshin's genius, the ghost of Shisui Uchiha, was absolutely sure of that. After a little altercation with one petty brawler called young Miss Namikaze, in which she smashed him to smithereens, the ash-haired guy decided to ignore the problem girl, who seemed to want a second round. Tying a jacket on the belt, which the Hokage kindly bought with funds and provided her with Shisui, somehow hiding her tails under it, Naruto put a baseball cap on her head, hiding her ears, and was already more or less dressed, although it turned out to be a problem wearing pants, as the tails grew into the girl's seat overnight, which quickly it was decided with the help of scissors. The girl got a hole in her brand new pants and a spoiled mood. Naruto taxied out of her room and walked in step with the Anbushniki. The sun was blinding my eyes. The trio tramped a long way, bypassing the ashes that had once been Uzumaki's home, so as not to upset the girl even more. But the news was on everyone's ear, and the gloating glances of random passers-by periodically cast at Naru spoke about it. Naruto did not pay attention to this, just looking at the familiar village streets for so many years. But Kakashi and Shisui were converted, so a fruit seller standing on the street and openly making fun of a virtually homeless orphan almost became a stutterer, from the two scariest looks of people in animal masks thrown at him. Everyone saw the merchant's fright, so they did not dare to look askance at the girl anymore, at least in the presence of her convoy. Naruto and 2 silent guys flew into the residence. The third was clearly agitated. Shikaku looked at the well-known girl with exhausted and astonished eyes. The bags under his eyes were bigger than his eyes. How long has Uncle Shikaku been awake? Naruto asked Kurama in amazement. It surprises me that he cannot sleep at all. The fox replied. Naruto ignored the slight sarcasm in Kyubi's voice. Hello, Naruto. How are you doing? A third asked cautiously. In general, after the exam performed by Naruto, he carefully selected the words. Better than it could have been. Where will I live, third san? Naruto muttered with displeasure. He doesn't ask about the fox, which means Shisui and Sensei didn't tell him that she was aware. That's what I wanted to talk about. The appearance of animal signs in you stunned the entire top of Konoha. But, to be honest, it did not become new for us. Your mom was a fox, too. What? Naruto was confused. Her mom. Also a kitsune? Oh, so you don't know. Naru, Kushina was a fox back in that world, but she did not use her abilities to the real maximum, because after marrying Minato she preferred to remain a housewife. Naruto seemed to have a revelation in the form of Kurama's voice. That was unexpected. Well. In general, this is so. Kushina-san also had something similar. I won't tell you the details, I don't know myself. We thought that this ability would not be passed on to you, but in a stressful situation, it still showed up. We are the Hokage in the council, right, Kurama? Yes, apparently so. Initially, I wanted to give you a new home, but since you have tails, someone your mom knows well will pick you up. We won't be able to control this child anymore. The girl needs more in-depth training, that neither the leaf nor the root, no one but him can give. Naruto heard the voice of one of the oldest behind a closed door with fox ears. Danzo's aura of anger was felt from a distance. This man is your mother's brother. Mom's brother. You mean my uncle? Where did he come from? He is one of the few Uzumaki who have learned the art of fox magic. One of the few. Is there a lot of Uzumaki left? He will teach you the subtleties of working with magic, and later you will return to Konoha. They don't want to keep me in the village because I'm out of control now. Hokage-sama, Manabu Uzumaki has arrived in the village. He's already arrived. How many years has he not been to Konoha? Since the wedding of his sister, he has not visited her again. They say he loved her so much that, although he was a hot-tempered, but always a sensible person, he even threatened her fiancé with reprisals if he offended his sister. Who are they talking about? Who is Manabu Uzumaki? My uncle? Where did it come from? Naruto thought in a panic. Kurama. What's happening? Kurama didn't know what was going on. There was not a single mention of the brother of his past Jinchuriki, and he had never seen him. Where would he come from now? The door swung open. Everyone in the room froze. Naruto's mind was swarming with 1,000,003 questions. A very tall but thin man walked into the office without knocking. His skin was the color of ivory, an oval face, with scarlet eyes, a high nose and thin pale lips. His hair was bright red, even longer than Jiraiya's hairstyle, but if his godfather had a porcupine tail, then he had it straight and smooth. Even the short bristling strands on top of his head, covering his forehead in places, only added to the effect that he was wearing a man's kimono. Its lower layer was dark red, the upper one was white, painted with patterns in which cherry branches and cranes could be guessed. Obi. They were replaced by red and yellow ribbons, a couple of which were tied in a small bow, the ends of which fell to the knees, and a small decoration with a red tassel. The sleeves of the outfit expanded at the elbows and also reached as far as the knees. A thin cloak was thrown over the kimono, painted with gold patterns and held on the shoulders thanks to red ribbons tied together. On his feet were wooden geta. The man, without greeting the ruler of Konoha, silently walked into the center of the room, straight to Naruto. He didn't look like Mom, but he was definitely Uzumaki. Naru tensed, ready to run away, but the stranger knelt down in front of her and somehow smiled lovingly, dropping a wide palm on the top of the girl's head. It looks like they're finally giving you to us, Fox, a fox? Does he know about her fluffy problem? Who is he? The man suddenly touched Naru's nose with a long, thin finger. Naruto felt uncomfortable because of the feeling of pulling something into herself. I realized that I no longer feel tails. She turned around, waved her arms, trying to grab at least one. I realized that I was catching emptiness. She clutched her head. No tails, no fox ears. But their own are in place. Did he remove them? Thank you, stranger-san. Naruto smiled at the scarlet-haired man. The uncle beamed and said to the Hokage, I'm taking my niece, and you won't stop it. The third one didn't look good. He was pale, and seemed to have aged even more, although it seemed that there was nowhere else. Manabu-san, I understand your feelings, but, well, no, you don't understand, Databane. Manabu exclaimed. Everyone was startled by the loud voice and surprise. You fed the clan with promises of meeting with the great-granddaughter of the head, swore to regularly send reports on her condition and then hand her over to the Whirlpool country, and then you exposed to us at the time of birth, the mother of the current Jinchuriki was Namikaze, a citizen of Konoha, which means her daughter is also part of our country. She is a Jinchuriki officially tied to our village Biju. We, the Databans, did not start a war just because of our agreement and age-old friendship, but do not expect that we will tolerate you all our lives. Naruto Uzumaki is the great-granddaughter of the head of Kichiro Uzumaki, the only Harem of the clan, and you are still trying to keep her in your village. Don't get us wrong, Naruto is the main combat unit of our country. That's the thing, Databane, that you have her as a combat unit, and we have her as the heiress of the country. Naruto, this is your chance. Kurama shouted. Act, what? Naruto didn't understand. Arouse the sympathy of your uncle, make it clear that you do not live as a queen, but as the scum of society. then he will take you away. Where to? How to where? To Uzumaki. I do not know why the whole clan is alive, but now the main thing is that this is our chance. Naruto grabbed the sleeve of Manabu's kimono, and his gaze, instantly warming, immediately turned to her. Uncle, do you want to pick me up? Naruto asked with amazing joy and sincerity. Yes, Naruto-chan, I want you to go somewhere with me. Naruto hesitated, and then blurted out, can you promise that I won't be beaten there? Beat? Yes. If I leave here, will I not be hated and beaten there? Making naive and sad eyes, Naruto repeated. And coupled with the very pale skin of the child, terrible thinness, because Naruto never gained weight, and understanding size behind his back, Manabu unconditionally believed in the words of the girl. Realizing that she was not lying, the whites of Manabu's eyes turned red. Emitting a terrifying aura, the man turned to the Hokage, who instantly became afraid, and on the move took out a katana from his belt. But he was interrupted. A new hero of the comedy, Try to Take Naruto, flew onto the stage. Manabu-san, we can't give you Jinchuriki. The third one mistakenly notified you, but everything is fine now. The young bearer of the Biju stays with us. Danzo declared decisively. Manabu looked at him, at the third, and turned to Naruto. Vixen, I promise that no one will even look at you contemptuously. At best, lose your eyes, at worst, your head. Could you wait outside the door? Grown-up uncles and old-timers all need to chat. Naruto obediently went out the door. Immediately there were shouts, swearing and the sound of broken glass in the office. Naruto leaned her back against the wall and dozed off. The body was stressed, and in order for her not to throw up again, she had to calm down. 5 minutes later Manabu came out of the office. All sweaty, angry, he immediately turned his attention to the girl. Naruto, as soon as the office door creaked, turned her head. Oh, so you heard everything. Manabu laughed awkwardly and tousled his hair falling on his forehead. Naruto smiled, confirming his words. Looks like there was a fight, now let's get acquainted normally. I am Manabu Uzumaki, your mother's brother and your uncle. I'm finally taking you out of this village. And you? I am Naruto Uzumaki. I don't remember mom and dad, but I think they were good people. Please take care of me, Manabu-san. But, Manabu shook his head, that won't do. Let's rather I'll be an uncle for you, uncle, fox. Alright, Uncle Manabu, Dadabayo. Manabu's eyebrows shot up and his smile widened as soon as he heard Dadabayo, and then he picked up Nara in his arms and walked out of the residence. Where are we going, uncle? To the territory of the Uzumaki clan. From now on, you are the princess of the clan. Naruto stealthily made her way to her room in Ryokan, in which she and Manabu stayed for a while. In her hand she had a brown suede bag, which contained what any shinobi would sell his soul for. Scrolls with Uzumaki clan techniques that the girl noticed, but they were not given to her by her uncle. The reason is ridiculously simple, which is even insulting. Uzumaki said it was too small for techniques of such complexity. If he knew what her level was, Madara would be on his head. She could not accept such a cruel injustice, so she quietly stole the bag from her uncle, and still, quietly, crept to herself, afraid of being caught. In the past, she failed to learn Fuinjutsu due to the lack of a knowledgeable mentor at hand who would regulate her training, and now there is such a storehouse of strength and knowledge nearby, and she is told not to touch them. Incredible audacity. In the immodest opinion of Naruto, someone grabbed her by the scruff of the neck, like a naughty kitten, and easily lifted her off the floor. Wah! Let go! Didn't I tell you it's too early for you to touch the scrolls? Manabu twitched his fox ears, pretending to frown sternly. He was in fox form. He said that the more often she sees this, the faster she will get used to it and the sooner she will be able to manifest it herself. The girl was very much in favor. She liked to see Uncle Fox. His ears were big, shaggy, bright, very red, so much so that in the light it seemed as if they were blazing with a scarlet flame. He has 3 tails, but what? Naruto choked on her saliva with envy when she first saw it. Long, flexible, like snakes, shaggy, shimmering in all shades of orange and red, with white tips. It was weird to see a man with 3 tails, but Naru had already seen enough of Kurama, so she got used to it pretty quickly. And she also wanted to. She asked her uncle to teach her how to release tails when they arrived home. Manabu shook his head again, causing the girl to involuntarily sigh in disappointment. It's too early, Fox. Until you start conjuring, you can only release the tails in a panic. You can't just do that. It will be very painful, so it's better to train you first, and then take up the form of a fox. That I had to resign myself and humbly wait for training and permission. Naruto couldn't resist asking about her mother. Was Okasan a fox? Could she also turn and conjure? Manabu nodded gravely. Kushina was one of the most talented clan in magic. However, she preferred the life of a housewife next to her beloved man, rather than a promising career, and moved to Konoha permanently immediately after the wedding. Naruto didn't like Manabu's tone. He drew his thin scarlet eyebrows to the bridge of his nose, and his bright red eyes became dangerous, very dark. In general, his eye color changed very often, depending on his mood. You don't like her decision? Manabu shuddered, not expecting such a serious tone from a 6-year-old girl. His niece knew how to surprise. He stared at Naruto. Fluffy, Databane, don't think about it. I have nothing against your father Minato. It is Konoha herself who causes me a negative, and the fact that she left the clan and went there. The third, who, after the death of his successor, stopped pushing the village forward, threw off a significant part of Konoha on the insolent elders, causes only disgust. Konoha stopped developing, froze. People just exist there, just exist, without any movement, neither forward or backward. Naru listened carefully. Under the first Hokage, Harem, the village was just built. The people were coming to their senses after a bloody war that lasted not for years, but for centuries. It would seem, what kind of development is there, to get used to the fact that life is now calm? But the first one blinded something promising out of nothing. The economy, education, science, art began to flourish, the culture of the whole village began to appear, and not individual clans. The country did not go, but flew into motion. Under the second Hokage, Tobirame, the crime was pinned down, and then for a while the crime was completed. The police of Konoha, Uchiha, although they were exiled to the edge of the village, but they did not sit idle. The third at first also continued the policy of Hashirama, seasoning with Tobirama's methods, but then lost his grip, aged. The death of his comrades, conflicts with other countries, and the general atmosphere in the ninja world greatly affected him. Konoha, who was flying up so fast, slowed down, got lazy. Now the village of the Hidden Leaf is nothing more than a bunch of hired workers who will do anything for a certain fee. It's not bad, but calling it a country is stupid. More like a big guild. The fourth, of course, showed great hopes, but he did not sit in the Kage chair for long. Uncle got excited. Uzumaki shuddered. The man fell silent, clearly lost in his thoughts, and after a pause added with sadness hidden in his eyes and voice, I was hoping for Minato. I liked his attitude, his actions. But then I was disappointed. Minato was a wonderful warrior and friend. He saved the country, did not give the tailed will, but destroyed it as a Hokage, left Konoha, did not think what would happen to people with such a Kage as Hiruzen, and how the course of life would go. The fact that he is a warrior is not bad, but he stopped being one by putting a Hokage hat on his head. He couldn't understand it, he didn't have time, maybe, but we have what we have. And Hiruzen, even though you might think otherwise, is not a bad kage. He's just tired already. As soon as he took office, the country began to blossom. Now he doesn't really care about Konoha. He is sure of its greatness exactly as long as there are the oldest clans in the Land of Fire. Without them, the country will not represent anything, and apart from them, Hiruzen cannot oppose anything. He is not as strong a kage as he was in his youth. Now it's time for him to choose a worthy successor, but for some reason, he is still procrastinating. Although as far as I know, he has White Fang's son in mind. Uncle calmed down and looked sideways at Naruto, without ceasing to chew only the dinner served to him. What's the matter with him? I didn't understand Naruto's strange reaction, but worried. He looks at your reaction to such an impulse. Checks if you understand who Minato is, and who he is to you. Trying to figure out if you're scared of his ardor. Kurama answered her, frantically thinking over their plan of action. He was unsettled at first by the presence of Naruto's relatives, which went against the usual life, and the short temper of the newly made uncle can add problems. Naruto, we need to find out as much information about this world as possible. As soon as we arrive at the territory of Uzumaki, we begin to comb through all the sources where ninja activity is recorded. The picture of the world should take shape so that there are no more surprises. He growled after a pause. What do you think about his words? The girl asked Kurama. He's not right in everything, but in many ways. Listen to him, by the way. I didn't know that before his death, Hiruzen wanted to appoint your incompetent sensei Hokage. Manabu had been looking at his beautiful niece all this time, noting to himself a more pronounced external resemblance to his sister. The first impression was flat, and, as it seemed to him then, Kushina's features were vaguely felt in her, and Minato interrupted the vaunted Uzumaki genes. Now her father's features were clearly felt, but this did not spoil the girl, and did not reduce her more noticeable, after a detailed examination, resemblance to his scarlet-haired sister. Naruto had the same round face that Kushina disliked so much, grumbling because of the unbearable similarity to a tomato, the same upturned nose, the same shape of eyes and eyebrows. The stripes on her cheeks emphasized the symmetry of her face, and her thinness and height, too low for her age. The man's teeth gritted. The child's malnutrition was strongly highlighted. Untidy short and very dirty hair stuck out in feathers in different directions. In general, the appearance screamed about the difficult life of the child. Manabu closed his eyes, no longer able to look at the hungrily chewing udon. With curry. A girl, the shame in front of the baby bit more and more palpably. If Manabu had previously convinced himself that his fault was not enough in what happened to Naruto, because he, as well as the whole clan, was fooled, now self-justification was gradually pressed by a feeling of skin-corroding longing and shame in front of a loved one, even if they are not as close as they could be, but they are still relatives, and anger, forcing him to lose his composure and give in to impulses that can frighten an already unloved child. I was ashamed in front of my sister, in front of my son-in-law, in front of my niece, who, because of the gullibility of the clan, including him, lived in such a terrible society. Manabu was ready to crumble the empty skulls of the elders, the Hokage, his simple-minded grandfather and his own, because of their political intrigues, a child suffered, a completely innocent child who lost his parents so early, and instead of the sympathy that was usually shown to all orphan children, he was bullied. I'm afraid to even imagine how it affected her perception of the world and herself. The man mentally lamented. He was ready right there to kill everyone who was hiding Naruto from the clan. What stopped him was that Konoha was still an important economic partner for Uzumaki, and he had already caused his grandfather problems, to arrange a fight right in the Hokage's office, to stuff the face of the vile nasty old man Shimura Danzo, who was one of the most influential people of a still influential country. they were clearly waiting for a serious trial, and first, a serious brainwash from Grandpa Kichiro. It's also a good thing that he didn't attack the Hokage with a katana, otherwise they wouldn't have avoided the war for sure. Although, Manabu very much doubted that the people of the Leaf would have gone against the Uzumaki clan. With our Fuinjutsu, we were able to resist the country with the strongest bijou, and now that the current keeper of the demon is on our side. The man chuckled to himself with satisfaction. Manabu is sure that even to such an audacious gesture, if not to say cheeky and frankly vandal, they will respond diplomatically, and will not try to attack the borders of Uzumaki. They threaten to deal on a large scale. Konoha is getting poorer, it's a fact. Relations with the Uchiha are gradually deteriorating. Inoshikacho, although still loyal to Konoha, are becoming more independent every year. Most likely, grandfather, when he finds out the whole truth, will begin to divide the spheres of influence, and separate all the activities of Yuzushiogakure from the activities of Konohagakure, demonstrating the separation of the two, once allied, thanks to the efforts of the first countries. It cannot be said that such a prospect suited Manaba. If he were in the old man's place, he would have already gathered the army of Yuzushio, called the allied states and sent the alliance to Konoha, who was sitting in his liver. Manabu is sure that when he comes to his senses after meeting his niece, he will thank Kami for the fact that Kichiro did not appoint him the head of the clan, but chose the late Kushina. The wise grandfather knew that his grandson, with his temperament, would have destroyed the clan. Speaking of the clan, Manabu thought hard about who his grandfather would hand over the reins of government to. Initially, they wanted to appoint Kushina as the head. The sister died, together, as everyone thought, with the newborn princess of the clan. Later, Konoha treated Uzumaki to empty promises for a long time. Kichiro, though old, is still in his right mind. Even though he is 89, no one even thought about transferring the title of the head. He will live for another 40 years due to the amazing longevity of Uzumaki for the ninja world, and for people in general, but to whom to transfer the clan? After Kushina's death, only the House of Ministers remained of the options. But the transfer is extremely undesirable to them, since the largest reserve of chakras, intuition and the strongest ancient magic belongs to the main branch of the clan, which they are not part of. These things are necessary for the management of the village of magicians. It was assumed that Manabu would be appointed supreme minister, replacing his mother, but then no one knew who, if necessary, to appoint Yuzukage. The supreme minister took an oath that upon assuming this position, he would never try to take the place of the ruler, so his and Kushina's mother could not become a kage. He was preparing to become a minister with his sister alive, but when she died, and the issue of inheritance arose, all the ministers, and he too, refused to appoint him heir. His temperament and absolute lack of politicality and diplomacy blocked his way to kage. And my sister, although she was famous for the bloody habanero, was good at negotiating and, having learned from her grandfather, would have become a ruler. With the Chamber of Ministers, everything was decided, but now there is Naruto. She will definitely become the Harem of the clan, and then the new princess can enter the political arena. And it's not even about desire. Manabu would not like to drag a child into all this darkness, but there was no question what Manabu would like. She will be involved, and the only thing he can do is help her win. The suspended state, the feeling of being followed and the feeling of uncertainty infuriated Manaba, so he, citing fatigue, went to bed. Naruto also decided to end her attempts to pull off the scrolls and followed him, after a couple of minutes. The next day, Uzumaki Manabu and Uzumaki Naruto left Konohagakure. Naruto was trying to recover. Recent events have greatly affected her. The stress experienced prevented the girl from sleeping, and Kurama with his philosophical reasoning did not help the case. Until about 4 in the morning, the fox did not shut up and every now and then made attempts to involve Neru in the discussion. She did not like it very much. After a hearty dinner she really wanted to sleep, but weak arguments did not stop her. Dear friend Manabu and Naruto were on their way for the third day. As it turned out later, the man arrived in Konoha in a couple of hours with the help of magic, but now he did not use it, since he was also responsible for an exhausted and magically unstable child. Therefore, ignoring all the not very convincing assurances of the niece that she was fine, they had to walk on their own 2 feet, using shunshin every time before staying in hotels. Manabu knew the way perfectly, so they never missed places. Naruto really had a hard time getting used to what had happened. At first she was terribly uncomfortable and unusual. The girl did not leave the feeling of the improbability of what was happening. She had previously traveled with Jiraiya and had never thought about moving with her relative. She still couldn't believe they were related at all. Perhaps she was given too little time to realize the new reality. Kurama was raging. It was not in his nature to miss details that could have an impact on him and his Jinchuriki, and therefore he was upset at everyone and everything when he finally comprehended the ambivalent situation in which they found themselves. On the one hand, his keeper had new opportunities, there were relatives, she could appear in the Harem clan, there was a chance to fix what had greatly shaken her in the future, but that other side was very bad. Since so many things have changed without their intervention, and the Uzumaki clan has remained intact, it is not a fact that everything will go smoothly from now on. Changing events in time is fraught with consequences worse than it was before. This could put Naruto in a bad position, and this was unacceptable. The twofold nature of what was happening and the inability to make a plan for the future, due to the lack of sufficient knowledge about this world, infuriated Kurama, so he became more aggressive, and rather harshly snapped at his Jinchuriki. She was not offended, realizing that the fox was excited and angry, but not at her, but at his own ignorance. Naruto herself was worried about more than that. The primary topic of her concern was the Uzumaki clan. To be more precise, how her newly made relatives will accept her. Naruto couldn't get rid of the anticipation and excitement that haunted her with each new acquaintance. But I also couldn't get rid of the tension. How will she be received? Will they be treated well? Will there be any misunderstandings due to the fact that she was considered dead? How will her kind of grandfather react? The girl was worried, but did not share her feelings with her uncle. But she had a heated discussion with Kurama about the attitude of her future relatives to her. Kyubi tried to calm his bearer, assuring that the Uzumaki are very friendly, internal conflicts occur extremely rarely, even despite their ardent temperament, and the attitude to the lost princess will be especially gentle. Naruto did not believe, convincing her that she would be like a snow on her head, and this would bring them more problems, and probably they would dislike her because of this. Usually it ended with a low assessment of Jinchuriki's mental abilities, and Kurama began to remain silent, realizing that it was useless to argue with her until Naruto's argument and moaning faded away. The girl sincerely wanted to please the new relatives, but had no idea how to do it. It brought her a lot of excitement. Towards the evening of the third day of their journey with Manabu, the endlessly wooded area suddenly gave way to steep cliffs. Naruto was already exhausted, and Manabu saw it, but it was too early to make a halt, and there were no hotels nearby. The man offered her a ride on his back, but the girl assured him that everything was fine. 15 minutes in pleasant silence, during which the girl tried to accumulate strength for a too steep descent and not to fly down head first, and Manabu tried to control the situation, holding his niece by the collar, passed hard. When Kunoichi recovered a little after another near fall and looked around, some kind of stone structure came into view. It was like a knight's castle. The first thing the girl saw was the outer wall, made of scraped light gray stone. The only thing missing was a moat that would prevent the infantry from passing, and there would be no differences from the medieval structures of the feudal lords. The drawbridge served as the only thing through which one could get inside. So it was at first glance. It would be easy for a ninja to jump over the walls. But after looking closer, Naruto realized that everything was not so simple. The structure was surrounded by some kind of domed aura, shimmering with purple, slightly sparkling light. The sun had already begun to set, so the aura sparkling in the shade was not so striking. Probably, this thing will prevent outsiders from passing. Naruto thought and looked at her better. Meanwhile, Manabu passed through the purple barrier and beckoned her to follow him. Naruto hesitantly stepped behind her uncle and grabbed his palm just in case. The man with a smile led her through the suspiciously glittering protection. Now they were standing in front of a raised bridge. How are we supposed to get there? There are no sentries here. Well, we can't fly, can we? The girl asked Kurama. The tailed one told her to watch. The surreal picture before her eyes made Naruto remember that her uncle is not just a ninja, but also a magician. Suddenly, an orange ray, similar to a firefly, jumped out of the sheath in which Manabu's katana was located. Before my eyes, it increased and turned into a clot of light, which my uncle took in both palms, folding his hands with a ladle. The light was shapeless and, like water in a round vase, splashed without going beyond the palms of Manabu. A strange, definitely intangible substance began to take shape. And 10 seconds later, a fox cub was sitting in his uncle's arms. Small, orange, but a few shades darker than the color of the magic from which it appeared. He had a short red fur coat, turning into black closer to the paws, an elongated pointed muzzle and round, angular ears at the ends, orange eyes, and a fluffy tail. Nothing in his appearance gave away that he came from magic. However, the orange light was still splashing around him. You need to raise the sentries, and then notify the head of our arrival, Databane. Manabu commanded the fox. The animal responded with a yap. And what was that? Naruto asked her uncle, impressed, when the strange creature approached the walls and, passing through them, disappeared from sight. You didn't expect me to do magic? I know it's unusual, but you should remember everything. Soon you will be too. Manabu chuckled at okay. And why did he come out of your scabbard, Databeo? All magicians have a special attribute, and maybe a few that skip magic. Many also have familiars, but not everyone has the strength to maintain them. For most uzumaki, the familiar is a fox, since it is our clan animal, but there are exceptions. It's something like a summoning animal, only instead of helping you in battle, it helps you in magic. My attribute is a katana and a scabbard. I can pass magic through my palms, and even through the whole body, but it is very expensive and exhausting, so it is usually reserved in case of destruction of the attribute. Will I have such an attribute, Datebeo? Absolutely. Your magic has already awakened, and you need to learn how to use it. No way without a weapon. And you can have a familiar if you want. There was no time to talk further. The bridge lowered, giving travelers the opportunity to enter the walls. Naruto had never seen anything like it. She walked hand in hand with Manabu, looking at the Uzumaki village with all her eyes. The streets were lit up with some colorful fireflies, similar to the one from which the familiar Manabu was woven. They quickly went out and lit up again. Because of this, it seemed to Naruto that she had fallen into a fairy tale. The guys walked along the road covered with dark boards, looking at the river, which reflected the flashes of flame, which turned into magical lights, and the faces of people passing by. She didn't know anyone, not a single person who stopped to talk to Manabu was recognized. It's sad to realize that most, if not all, of these people died after the attack of the Alliance of Ninja Countries, Naruto sadly shared with Kurama. He concisely agreed these people were so good. She didn't hear a single nasty word, although she expected it. Anyone who recognized Manaba immediately guessed who was holding his hand. The scarlet-haired strangers talked to her very affectionately, called her princess, and were generally very nice and friendly. One woman who didn't even introduce herself took a box of cookies out of her bag and handed it to her, and when Naruto tried to refuse, she assured the child that it would be nicer if she took them. She was handed sweets, apples, someone tied a long green scarf around the girl's neck. People kept coming and coming. Manabu watched with a smile as his niece was showered with goodies. The girl should have received sincere warmth from the very beginning, and even though they were late, they should try to catch up. He helped to convey gestures of goodwill. Because of the number of goodies, Naruto saw almost nothing and could fall. Kurama grinned, however, he did it good-naturedly. It's not that he likes these people, but they treat his keeper well, as they should, which means that it's not worth hating them. The fox decided to let go of the moment that it was this clan that drove him into the press many years ago. Naruto was able to go smoother when Manabu sealed all the gifted good in Fuin on his wrist. Leaving only a chocolate bar in his hand, which the girl immediately began to chew, he led her through the streets, as he said, to his home. Kunoichi tried to memorize the road and examine the buildings, but it was too dark, and only silhouettes and figures could be seen. Leaving the case until tomorrow, she decided to clarify. Why don't we go tell your grandfather that we've arrived at the village, Databeo? I'll go alone. The conversation will be long, then the reprimand will begin and end with a debate. This case is not for 15 minutes or even for an hour, believe me, I know my grandfather well. So I'll report back, and you go to bed. You will meet tomorrow, Databane. Manabu said with a smile. We came by the way. They entered a house. The light immediately came on, but Manabu, pulling out all the goodies from the seals and dumping everything on the table, sent Naruto to the bathroom, and then drove him into bed, stopping all attempts to go on an independent tour. Kichiro Uzumaki is a tall, broad-shouldered man. He doesn't look like he's almost 80. A massive body, a loud smoky bass, red hair with gray, gathered in a bun at the back of the head, thick eyebrows and a powerful, though deeply lined, not devoid of freshness face, massive jaws and a general rather aggressive appearance gave the impression of an unpleasant rude man. In fact, Kichiro was a man of fine mental organization, a very vulnerable nature, an exemplary family man and just a good old man. Although it is quite difficult to call him an old man. As it turned out recently, he has a 6-year-old great-granddaughter, but seeing him in person, you might think that he has only a young daughter or son. Kichiro hated kimono, kosode, haori and everything that could constrain movement. He felt that he was suffocating in such things, so in his 20s, having lost his father, who forced him to wear traditional clothes, the guy got rid of all the annoying outfits and began to prefer more practical things. In his wardrobe, for the most part, there were lekalo jackets and shirts of all kinds of colors, a uzumaki robe and one shinobi vest, which he wore only once a year on the traditional hanami for the whole clan, on the only day when his harmful secretary agreed to an unscheduled weekend. Kichiro's sensitivity made itself felt again. While his grandson, Manabu, smoothly narrated how his great-granddaughter was hidden from the whole clan and raised in cruelty, Kichiro burst into tears. It may seem that such behavior is unacceptable for the head, but he really was a good family man, for whom the good of his neighbor is more important than his own good. Therefore, he even decided not to scold the negligent grandson for the scene in the Hokage's office, although it was clear from his face that he expected a grandiose scandal. When Manabu's story came to an end, Kichiro no longer had the strength to look at him. He buried his face in his handkerchief, not wanting his grandson to see his tears. The appearance of a new family member made him happy, but besides that, he felt sorry for his great-granddaughter and was fiercely angry at the Hokage, daimyo and all Konoha, who drove the little girl into a terrible situation. When Manabu started talking about holes and bruises on her legs, before the fire, Naruto had a belligerent fight with an uncle almost twice her age. He tried to take it out on Jinchuriki. As a result, he ran away with his ass on fire, shouting curses as he went. Kurama was grinning contentedly. "You can't touch his keeper." Kichiro wanted to howl that, "We should collect shinobi and smear Konoha, Grandpa. Hiding Uzumaki from the clan is a crime," and they hit Harem. Kushina and Minato's daughter. "My niece. Your great-granddaughter. This is a global scandal, Databane." Kichiro regally ignored his grandson. He didn't like the hell out of the situation they were in. Konoha was an important element in the life of Uzushio. Uzumaki were not completely autonomous. He didn't want a war. People were coming to their senses after the Third World War. Shinobi, no one would have survived a repeat of the horrors soon. He himself lost his daughter in the conflict of countries. He no longer intends to risk the clan. But Manabu was determined. The best option was to squeeze the maximum compensation out of Konoha, undermine the authority of the third and get benefits for the clan. Sounds good, though not so simple. However, Kichiro could not put the brakes on such a thing, and he completely ignored the friendship in Konoha, which lasted for more than 1 century. Despite his overwhelming emotions, Kichiro was one of the most outstanding Uzukage. He planned to meet his great-granddaughter tomorrow. Today, the child is already under the impression. However, Kichiro cooled his head quickly. He understood why Hiruzen was holding the girl by his side. As a Kage, he would have done the same if he were in his place, but it was his granddaughter. This shouldn't apply to his family. To his country should not. This outraged the man, but now it did not cause that terrible rage. Yet he, too, was at the head of the country, and the Hokage's motives were clearly visible. Hiruzen wanted a weapon that would protect his state. Cold calculation. That's all. Kichiro really wanted to rest. A lot of new information made it difficult to fall asleep, but the leaden head gave off an unbearable weight. The old man tried to imagine the appearance of his great-granddaughter. From Manabu's stories, she looks like Kushina. And the character is a little more restrained. Maybe it's already Minato's genes splashing from the Takuri. Straight to Masa. A little shochu. Kichiro took a drag. The smoking pipe grew heavier with every cup he drank. Deciding not to fill in the stress of the last hours and get to know his great-granddaughter in a normal, not hungover state, Kichiro went to bed without even removing the remnants of his alcoholic ceremony. That's the end of it.